My name is Emily Carter, and the day I buried my parents was supposed to be the hardest day of my life. But fate had other plans. Because on that cold, rain-soaked afternoon, as black umbrellas trembled in the wind and mourners whispered prayers over two freshly dug graves, my husband leaned in and whispered something that shattered me in a way even death could not. He asked me for a divorce. At my parents' funeral. And he did not whisper it with sorrow. Not with regret. Not even with hesitation. He said it like a business decision. Like he was cutting loose a bad investment. Because he believed no, he assumed that I was now bankrupt. He had no idea how wrong he was. No idea what my parents had prepared. No idea what I already knew. No idea that the woman he was discarding at the graveside was about to rise from it. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, I want to ask you something. Have you ever looked at the person you loved the most and realized they only loved the version of you they could use? Have you ever had your heartbreak interrupted by betrayal, as if grief alone was not cruel enough? If stories like this resonate with you, stories about betrayal, awakening, and reclaiming your power, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice helps stories like mine reach the people who need to hear them. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Rain fell in thin silver sheets that morning, drifting across the cemetery like a veil. The sky was a dull, bruised gray, the kind that presses down on your shoulders and makes you feel smaller than you already are. My parents' casket's mahogany, polished, heartbreakingly beautiful, rested beneath a canopy lined with white roses. White had been my mother's favorite color. She said it made her feel calm, no matter what storm she was facing. Ironic, then, that the calmest day of her life was now the calmest day of her death. I stood near the graves, numb, barely aware of the people around me. Hands shook mine. Voices murmured condolences. Faces blurred into shapes I could barely recognize. All I could see were the two coffins. Side by side. Together, even in death. The priest's voice rose and fell like waves in the distance. I felt disconnected from everything, as if I were watching the scene from the outside, trapped behind glass. My husband, Mark, stood beside me. Or rather, he stood near me. But he did not hold my hand. He did not wrap his arm around my shoulder. He did not whisper, "I am here." His face held nothing but polite detachment, the kind people wear at corporate networking events. A gust of wind blew, lifting the edge of my black coat. I shivered. Mark did not notice. Or maybe he did notice, and simply did not care. When the final prayer ended and the shovels began to move, mourners approached me one by one. They hugged me, murmured kind words, brushed tears from their cheeks. Mark stood back, letting everyone else comfort me. That alone hurt more than I was willing to admit. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. When the crowd thinned and we were nearly alone, he stepped closer. His expression tightened with an urgency that felt out of place. "Emily," he said quietly, "we need to talk." I wiped my eyes. "Can it wait, please? I am trying to hold myself together." "No," he said firmly. "It cannot. I have been patient long enough." My stomach dropped. He glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to overhear. Then he leaned in, his breath warm against the cold tear-stained skin of my cheek. "I want a divorce." For a moment, I thought I had misheard. That the grief had distorted his words into something unthinkable. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw no misunderstanding. Only certainty. "Mark." My voice cracked. "You cannot mean that. Not today." He shrugged, his face emotionless. "Your parents are gone, Emily. We both know they had nothing left. Debts everywhere. No assets. No support for you." He paused, adjusting the cuff of his suit as if discussing something trivial. "I cannot stay married to someone who is putting me at financial risk." The world tilted. Not metaphorically, I mean literally. I felt the earth sway beneath me, my vision blurring at the edges. "So that is it?" I whispered. "Because you think I have nothing now, you want to leave?" He exhaled sharply, annoyed. "Emily, do not make this dramatic. I married you with the assumption your family was secure. But now? This changes everything. I cannot carry dead weight. Dead weight.
The words cut deeper than the wind ever could.
He stepped back, smoothing his tie, lowering his voice as two distant relatives walked past. I will have my lawyer send the papers. Sign them quickly. It is better for both of us. His tone was calm, rehearsed, transactional. As if divorcing me at my parents' graveside was just paperwork. Then he walked away.
Just walked away.
Leaving me alone between two fresh graves, with rain soaking into my hair, my clothes, my skin. For a moment, I thought I might collapse. But I did not. Because something else happened instead.
The numbness broke.
And in its place, something colder, sharper, more powerful settled inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Clarity. As I stood there with mud at my feet and grief in my hands, my parents' lawyer approached Mr. Holston, a man my family had trusted all my life. His face was somber as he placed a gentle hand on my arm. "Emily," he said softly, "there is something important your parents wanted me to share. But only after the funeral."
I sniffed, nodding shakily.
"They left letters," he continued. "And instructions. They were concerned." I frowned. Concerned about what? He lowered his voice. "About Mark."
A chill ran through me.
"My parents." I whispered. "They knew."
Mr. Holston gave a slow, sad nod.
"They suspected for a long time that he married you for financial reasons. They discovered things you did not see. Things they chose not to burden you with while they were alive." I gripped my coat tightly, trying to steady myself. He reached into his briefcase and handed me an envelope thick sealed, with my mother's handwriting on the front. For after, she had written.
Just 2 words.
2 words that felt like a hand reaching out from beyond the grave to steady me. "There is more," Mr. Holston said. "They left instructions regarding the inheritance."
I blinked through fresh tears.
"Inheritance?" "But Mark said." "Mark knows nothing," he interrupted firmly. "Your parents were wealthy, Emily. Much wealthier than people realized." I stared at him, stunned. "But the debts." "Fabricated," he said. "Created to test loyalty. And Mark failed the moment he believed them to be true."
My breath caught.
He continued. "All assets, properties, investments and trusts are transferred solely to you. Completely protected. And Mark has no legal access to any of it." I covered my mouth. My husband thought I was bankrupt. Thought I was worthless. Thought abandoning me at my lowest would free him from a burden. But he was about to learn. I was never the burden. He was. That night, after the funeral, I went home alone. Mark did not return. He had not even asked if I needed anything. I sat on the edge of the bed we once shared and opened my mother's letter. Her handwriting curved gently across the page. "My sweet Emily, if you are reading this, it means we could no longer protect you in the ways we wished. So we left you with truth instead." Tears blurred the ink. "We saw the way Mark looked at our accounts, not at you. We saw how he compared your worth to what he believed you would inherit. We hoped we were wrong. We prayed for it." A tear fell onto the page. "But if the day comes when he shows his true heart, we want you to know this. You were never empty. You were never alone. You were never without value. He will walk away when he thinks you have nothing. But you have everything you need to build a life without him." My hands shook violently. Her last line. "And when the time comes, do not fight for him. Fight for yourself." I folded the letter against my chest and cried not for Mark, not even for the betrayal, but for the overwhelming love my parents left behind. That was the last night I cried because of him. From that moment on, I cried for myself. And then, eventually, I stopped crying altogether. The next morning, I walked through my parents' home for the first time since the funeral. Rain had washed the world clean overnight, but inside the house everything felt untouched, frozen in the echo of lives no longer there. My mother's favorite shawl still hung on the armchair. My father's glasses still rested on the side table, next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. The air held that familiar scent of lavender and old books.
I ran my fingers across the piano keys softly, as if touching them too hard might break the memories trapped inside.
It was then that I remembered something my mother once told me. Homes remember the truth long after people forget it.
I understood it now.
Because this house remembered the woman I had been before my marriage. A woman with dreams, a woman with confidence, a woman who believed in kindness. And somewhere along the way, I had lost her. Mark had not stolen her. He had simply taken advantage of her absence. And now I was ready to find her again. That afternoon, I met with Mr. Holston, the family lawyer, in his office downtown. The building was old, with tall windows and wood-paneled walls that smelled faintly of oak and thyme. He greeted me with a warm but somber nod. "I know this is difficult," he said. "But your parents left everything with clear intention." He opened a thick folder, sliding documents toward me: titles, investment summaries, trust accounts, property deeds.
My breath caught.
This was not just wealth. It was generational stability. Years of quiet saving, smart decisions, and careful planning. All of it for me. My throat tightened. Why did they never tell me? "Because they wanted you to marry for love," he said gently.
Not for money.
They believed if people knew the truth, you would never truly know who valued you for yourself.
A chill ran down my spine.
Did they think Mark would fail the test? "They did not want to believe it," he replied. "But they suspected." "How long?" I whispered. He hesitated. "Since the night he proposed." I stared at him in disbelief. "They watched him closely," he said. "Your father noticed how keen Mark was to understand your family assets. Your mother noticed how impatient he became whenever you mentioned financial boundaries." I closed my eyes, remembering small moments I had ignored. Mark asking about my parents' will a month after our wedding. Mark complaining when my father refused to invest in his business idea. Mark's sudden mood swings whenever I said no. I had brushed it off. I had told myself he was ambitious, driven,
Misunderstood.
but I had been wrong.
Blindly wrong.
Mr. Holston reached into a drawer and handed me a sealed envelope. "This," he said, "is your parents' final assessment of Mark." I opened it slowly. Inside was a single page in my father's handwriting.
"Emily, love should build you, not drain you.
If the day ever comes when Mark treats you as a liability, not a partner, walk away without fear. We have already secured your future."
My vision blurred with tears.
They had seen everything. Everything I refused to see. Before I left, Mr. Holston cleared his throat. "There is one more thing," he said cautiously. "Your parents installed security cameras around their home years ago. A precaution after a break-in attempt." I nodded, unsure where this was going. He continued. "A month before their passing, your father discovered something troubling in the recordings." He slid a USB drive across the desk. I felt the blood drain from my face. "What is on here?" His expression softened.
Conversations.
Arguments. Things said when people thought no one was listening.
My hands trembled slightly.
"You mean Mark?" "Yes," he said gently. "It appears he came to your parents' home on several occasions when you were not present."
Cold dread slid down my spine.
"Did they confront him?" I whispered.
No.
"They did not want to alarm you. They wanted to gather proof first, to protect you." Proof. A word that suddenly felt heavier than all the grief in the world. "Emily," he said softly, "you do not have to watch it today." I nodded, but my eyes were fixed on the USB. I knew I would watch it.
Not out of vengeance.
But because I needed the truth. Because truth was the only thing that could free me. That evening, I returned to my apartment empty except for the sound of my own footsteps. Mark had not come back. He had no reason to. In his mind, we were already done. I placed the USB into my laptop. The screen flickered, loading the files. There were timestamps, each marking a moment when my parents were not home, but Mark was. The first file opened with the sound of the front door closing. Mark walked into my parents' living room, phone pressed to his ear. I watched in stunned silence as he spoke. Yes, I know she is the only child, he said. No siblings.
Everything goes to her.
A pause. I am telling you, once they pass, we will be set. I just need them to stop dragging their feet and finally put things in writing. My stomach twisted violently. How long had he viewed their deaths as a financial timeline? He paced the room. No, she cannot know I am here. She still thinks I love her. Still thinks. Still. Past tense. He laughed then, a laugh I had never heard before. They are old. They will not last much longer. And when she inherits, we will finally get the money we deserve. We. Not I. We. He had been planning with someone. Someone else.
My breath caught.
Amber. His co-worker. The woman he claimed was just a friend. The woman who always looked at him a little too long. The woman he had started working late with.
Cold realization spread through me.
Mark was not leaving because he thought I was bankrupt. He was leaving because he believed I had nothing left to offer. But the moment he believed the money was gone, so was his love. I clicked on another file. This time my parents were home. My father stood in the doorway, blocking Mark from entering. You are not welcome here without Emily, Dad said firmly. Mark's voice dropped into something dark. I am her husband. I deserve to know what I am getting into. My father folded his arms. You deserve nothing that does not belong to you.
Mark stepped forward.
She is my wife. I am entitled to her inheritance. My father's jaw clenched. And that, he said coldly, is why you will never get it.
Mark's face twisted with hatred.
You old fool, he hissed. You think you can stop me? When she inherits it, I will have access to everything.
My father stepped closer.
Mark, he said quietly, when she inherits, she will already know the truth about you. Mark smirked. She is too soft to believe anything bad about me. My father's next words were calm but devastating. You do not understand love.
You only understand possession.
Mark scoffed and stormed away, slamming the door. I sat frozen, tears streaming down my face, not from grief this time, but from revelation. My parents had not just died. They had died while trying to protect me. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something new stirring inside me. Power.
Not the sharp, fiery kind. The quiet, steady kind.
The kind that grows in the ashes of everything that tried to destroy you. I took a deep breath. Then another. Mark thought I was broken. Mark thought I was bankrupt. Mark thought he could discard me and walk away with nothing but relief. But he had no idea what was coming. I wiped my tears and grabbed my phone. There was someone I needed to call. When the line clicked open, I said just one sentence.
Mr. Halston, I am ready to file.
His voice was calm. We can begin tomorrow. Are you sure? I looked around my empty apartment. At the silence he left behind. At the future I was about to rebuild. Yes, I said. I have never been more sure of anything. The next morning, Mark finally returned home. He walked in with the confidence of a man who believed he held all the cards. Emily, he said casually, I hope you are packing your things. We should finalize everything today. I do not want this dragging out. I stood in the living room, calm, composed, wearing a black blazer that made me feel stronger than I had in years. Mark, I said softly, we need to talk. He smirked. Good. Let us get this over with. But his smirk faltered when he noticed the folder in my hand. What is that?
The divorce papers, I said.
Already drafted. He blinked, clearly thrown off. You already saw a lawyer? Yes. He frowned. You could not possibly afford. Mark, I said gently, cutting him off, sit down. He hesitated. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He sat. I placed the folder on the table. And as he opened it, I watched his expression shift from confidence to confusion, to panic. Because inside the folder was something he never expected. The The prenuptial agreement he signed without reading the trust documents proving he had no claim to my inheritance, evidence of his visits to my parents' home, footage of him discussing my parents' deaths as a financial opportunity, text messages between him and Amber. He looked up at me, pale as ash. Emily, what is this? The truth, I said softly. Everything you thought I did not know. His mouth opened, closed. You planned this? No, I said. My parents did. They prepared me for a day when you would show your true heart. His face twisted. Emily, I did not mean. Do not, I said quietly. Do not insult me with apologies you do not mean. I stood slowly. We will proceed with the divorce. You will receive nothing.
And you will not contact me again.
He stared at me, stunned. You cannot do this, he whispered. I already have. Mark stared at the documents on the table, his eyes moving rapidly from one page to another as though he could will the meaning to change. But it would not change. Because truth does not bend for those who built their lives on lies. This cannot be legal, he stuttered. It is perfectly legal, I said softly. My parents' lawyer handled everything. Every asset is protected. Every investment is registered solely under my name. You signed a prenuptial agreement before our wedding. You remember that, do you not? His jaw tightened. You told me it was standard paperwork. It was, I replied. Standard paperwork for someone who was marrying for the wrong reasons. His eyes widened with panic.
Emily, listen to me.
He reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Do not, I said quietly. He froze. Something shifted in the room. The power he once held, the invisible rope he had wrapped around my life, snapped cleanly. He felt it too. Emily, he said again, this time softer, you have misunderstood everything. I love you. The word love slipped from his lips like a lie too used to being believed. Mark, I said, I watched the recordings. His face drained of color. I saw you discussing my parents' deaths as an opportunity. I saw you planning a future with someone else, someone you felt was more compatible with your financial goals. He swallowed hard. You do not understand. No, I said firmly. I understand perfectly now. I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. You never wanted me. You wanted what you thought I would inherit. He opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. And then, I continued, the moment you believed I had nothing, you discarded me.
At my parents' funeral. He exhaled shakily.
Emily, please. You left me alone beside two graves, I said, my voice trembling with memory. I had just lost the only people who ever loved me without conditions. And instead of holding my hand, you handed me a divorce. Tears finally filled his eyes. Emily, I made a mistake. I shook my head. No, Mark. You revealed yourself. Mark sank into the couch, burying his face in his hands.
Emily, do not do this. Do not leave me.
Please. I watched him unravel. The confident man who had walked into this apartment believing he was in control was now fractured. He had built his life on the illusion of power, financial leverage, emotional manipulation, charm when necessary, cruelty when convenient. Now, he had nothing. Because everything he valued was slipping through his fingers. He looked up, desperate. Emily, we can fix this. I can change. A bitter ache rose in my chest, not because I believed him, but because once upon a time, I would have. You cannot change who you never intended to be, I said gently. He shook his head violently.
Just give me one more chance.
I held his gaze. You had countless chances. You had years to show me I mattered more than money. You had hours at the funeral to comfort me. And all you gave me was a request to sign away our marriage. He stood abruptly, pacing, running his hands through his hair. This cannot be happening, he muttered.
Emily, please, I need you.
No, I said quietly.
You need what you think I have.
You never needed me. He stopped walking. His shoulders slumped. And then something inside him cracked. Emily, he whispered, I did love you. I did. Maybe, I said softly. But you loved yourself more. He closed his eyes, and for a brief, fragile moment, I saw him clearly not the villain of my story, but the architect of his own downfall. A man so consumed by greed that he mistook possession for love. I placed the final document on the table, the one Mark had hoped never to see. It was the prenuptial clause that ensured, in the event of divorce, he would receive nothing. He would pay his own legal fees. He would vacate our shared apartment within 30 days. He would have no access to any assets belonging to me or my family. He stared at it as though it were written in fire. You planned this, he whispered. No, I said. My parents planned this. I only had to follow their instructions when you proved them right. His breath hitched. This is cruel, he said. Cruel. I repeated, almost breathless with disbelief. Cruel is asking your grieving wife for a divorce beside her parents' coffins. Cruel is treating love like a business contract. Cruel is abandoning someone when you think they are poor. He looked away, ashamed. I continued, more gently this time.
Mark, this is not cruelty. This is consequence.
When he finally picked up the pen, his hand trembled so violently that the tip scratched the paper. He signed the divorce documents slowly, each letter carving his resignation into the page. When he finished, he placed the pen down and looked at me. Really looked at me. You are not the woman I married, he said quietly.
No. Ian suarat.
I am the woman you underestimated. A long silence stretched between us. Rain began to fall outside, tapping gently against the windows. The same rain that had witnessed my grief at the cemetery. The same rain that had washed away the dust from my parents' home. Rain has a way of cleansing what was never meant to stay. Mark stood, shoulders rigid. He stepped toward the door, but paused with his hand on the handle. Emily, he said softly, if things were different. I cut him off with a faint smile. If things were different, you would not have left me at the graveside. He lowered his head and walked out. The door clicked shut. For a moment, I just stood there, listening to the quiet. Then I exhaled. Slowly, deeply, completely. And for the first time since that terrible day, I felt free. A week later, I returned to my parents' home.
I sat at the piano where my mother used to play lullabies. Afternoon light poured through the curtains, warm and golden, like a blessing.
I opened the second letter my parents had left for me. My father's handwriting filled the page. Emily, we knew love might blind you, but truth would restore you. Do not fear walking away from those who never walked toward you.
You are stronger than you believe.
And when you finally see your worth, no one will ever steal your peace again. My mother had written below in her soft script. We love you. We always did. We always will.
Let this be your beginning, not your end.
Tears slipped down my cheeks. But they were not tears of pain this time. They were tears of release. Of gratitude.
Of understanding.
My parents had given me more than wealth. They had given me clarity. They had given me protection. They had given me permission to let go. And I finally did. Months passed. I rebuilt my life in ways I had never imagined. I traveled.
I renovated my parents' home.
I started a small design company my mother had always encouraged me to pursue. Mark tried to contact me twice. I never answered. He had been the chapter that taught me the most painful lesson of my life. But he was not the last chapter. He was simply the turning point.
The moment the story changed direction. The moment I changed direction.
One evening, as I stood on the porch of my parents' home watching the sunset spill across the sky like gold melting into the horizon, I finally understood something. Strength does not come from never breaking. Strength comes from breaking. And then choosing to rise. I rose. And I kept rising.